Do you even know what DC Comics stands for? If you're thinking Detective Comics, you'd be wrong. What, did you think it's Detective Comics? You f***ing idiot. Real fans know that it's actually Detective Chimp Comics, as their flagship comic series is and always has been Detective Chimp. Bobo T. Chimpanzee was captured in the 1950s from his natural habitat in Africa and brought to the magical state of Florida, where he was trained for a carnival act to solve mysteries. How would that act even work? Like, would you sit down in the circus tent and watch an elaborate murder mystery dinner performed with circus animals? That sounds really cool, actually. I would go to that. Sadly, Bobo's owner and trainer is murdered, and due to the fact that cops in America don't solve crimes, Bobo takes on the case himself, solving the mystery and becoming the now famous Detective Chimp. Later on, Rex the Wonder Dog goes on spring break in Florida and meets Detective Chimp. The two search for and finally find the Fountain of Youth, extending not only his lifespan, but his mind. He now can communicate with all animals, including humans, and his intelligence is heightened, making him the world's greatest detective. Hot take, I know. Probably the most famous in DC's Primate Hall of Fame is the Flash villain, Gorilla Grodd. Originally, Grodd was just a normal gorilla living amongst his gorilla pals in the wild African jungle, but came into contact with a meteor that imbued telepathic powers on Grodd and his fellow apes, evolving the gorillas into a race of super intelligent foes to be feared. They built the advanced civilization of Gorilla City, with Grodd as their ruler, and have faced off against both Barry Allen and Wally West countless times.
Barack Obama, it will almost be an honor to kill you. Time to make America Grodd again.
Ultra-Humanite is an ape with the literal brain of a mad scientist. Think Poor Things, but better, because it has Big Monkey. Actually, Ultra-Humanite is one of DC's first villains, predating even Lex Luthor, and was Superman's first recurring foe. He started off as an elderly, crippled mad scientist who fought the Man of Steel, putting his brain into other more able-bodied hosts. He finally grows tired of having to find new hosts, and heads to Gorilla City, where he mutates a giant albino gorilla that can hold his consciousness forever. The mutant gorilla bod granted him terrifying mind powers, including telepathy and telekinesis. Since returning to Monkey, his intellect has only improved, and is now one of the DC Universe's smartest characters. Let's move on to Sam Simon, also known as just Ape. Creative. He's part of a duo named Angel and the Ape, with his girlfriend Angel O'Day, another detective. The two moved from Gorilla City to New York, where Angel solved mysteries while Sam became an artist for DC Comics. What? Monsieur Mallah. How do I say that without the accent? I don't think I've ever said Monsieur. Monsieur Mallah. Monsieur Mallah. That's my American. Monsieur Mallah is one of my favorite apes on this list. An infamous enemy of both the Teen Titans and the Doom Patrol, Mallah is another hyper-intellectual evil gorilla, but this time, he's French. He's most well known for his totally just professional villainous relationship with the evil German mad scientist Brain in a Roomba, named the Brain. The two and their supervillain team, the Brotherhood of Evil, have done horrible deeds together. Throughout the years, their professional relationship was revealed to be much more. With this comic coming out in 1990, though, it's crazy that the most taboo thing about this relationship is that they're both men, and not that one is a whole-ass gorilla and the other is literally just a brain. The Wonder Twins famously have a monkey sidekick named GLEEK, who, yes, monkeys are not apes. I'm sorry to any primatologists who are watching. I won't make the mistake again. I could go on and on, because as you can see, there's a bizarre amount of apes, monkeys, chimps, gorillas, and primates in the DC universe. One could even argue that DC Comics is the house that apes built. Well, I'd argue that, but I'm not sure that's such a common expression outside of this channel, but it definitely should be. But the question is, why are there so many great apes in DC? Well, besides the fact that chimps are cool as hell, no, No, that's actually pretty much the explanation. The story goes that during the Silver Age of comics in the 1960s, DC Comics editor Julius Schwartz realized that comics with a gorilla on the cover sold way better than comics that had no gorilla on the cover. In his autobiography, Man of Two Worlds, Schwartz reveals how back in the 50s and 60s, most comics were written based on the cover, meaning editorial would come up with a gimmicky and attention-grabbing cover, and the writers would then have to create the issue around the premise of this cover. Schwartz explains in his book that one such gimmick cover absolutely blew up in 1951, that being the first ape cover of Strange Adventures. Realizing that this issue of Strange Adventures was selling way better than any other issues, Schwartz and the rest of the editorial theorized it could be because of the cover focusing on a gorilla. Throughout the years, they tested this theory again and again, putting anthropomorphized gorillas and apes on the covers of comics. And again, the comic sales would skyrocket. Once we get to 1966, there are apes practically fucking everywhere. It's like fucking NFT bros took over DC Comics. It's crazy. It was clear that kids in the 60s were just going absolutely bananas over these ape-themed comics, as the ape craze saw no sign of slowing down in the industry. Outside of DC Comics, the ape craze was in full swing, as 1968's Planet of the Apes released in theaters to critical and financial success. This was the perfect time for DC to capitalize on the ever-growing monkey market, but sadly, the Silver Age of primate covers came to an end, when most of DC's writers, artists, and editorial were fired, stepped down, and replaced in 1968. This led to a complete shakeup of company priorities, and that included the great apes of DC getting the axe. In 1966 and 67, there were 16 comics that featured an ape on the cover. In 1968, outside of the launch of the series Angel and the Ape, that number dropped to 0. The house was collapsing, and the apes who built it evicted. In a way, the story of my favorite character, not only in this list of primates, but of all time, in all of fiction, Detective Chimp, reflects the story of comic book apes in general. The part of Bobo's story I didn't tell you yet is that after he learns to speak to humans, he is now forced to pay taxes and moves on to open his own PI firm, Chimpanzee Investigations. The business does incredibly well at first, as the world is enchanted by the very idea of an ape being a detective. But eventually, just as the novelty of an ape on the cover of a comic book wore off, the novelty of a chimp solving mysteries wore off, and Bobo is hit with a financial crisis. Being an ape, he sadly does not have the civil rights and liberties humans are afforded, and is unable to maintain a successful life as a detective. To numb the pain, he turns to alcoholism, smoking, gambling, becoming the gruff, troubled, broken version of Detective Chimp we all know. Gone are the pure glory days of circus acts, goofy mysteries, telepathic gorillas, super genius primates, and gay French apes. Today, Bobo represents what is left of the great apes. But the future may not be so bleak. In the past few years, the internet's obsession with primates has skyrocketed. And that's not all. Just this year, we have a new Planet of the Apes film, Godzilla and Kong, and Dev Patel's Monkey Man all releasing. DC has the opportunity to right the wrongs of the past by capitalizing on this new era of ape appreciation and putting the chimp back in Detective Chimp comics. And it looks like that's exactly what they're doing. Last month, DC released a new one-shot titled The April Special. The book is an exceptional celebration of the real and overlooked history of DC Comics, and truly gives the people what they've always wanted, a return to Monkey. Maybe, just maybe, Detective Chimp can one day soon go back to his old and more innocent ways, once again becoming the central figure of the DC Universe, as it was always meant to be.